Hello, and welcome to the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at Berkshire Community College. We are a community of over 1,500 people committed to learning and having fun. We offer 4 terms of peer-led courses each year taught by volunteer instructors, and additionally offer scores of events, speakers, and programs to connect the members of our OLLI community with each other and the world. I'm Carol Almond-Morton, the Executive Director of OLLI at BCC. We are a volunteer-driven organization. In addition to courses and events, we have a number of shared interest groups that members are encouraged to join. You can learn more at berkshireolli.org/SIG. We have a number of events coming up soon, and you can see the complete listing at berkshireolli.org/events. This summer, we'll be offering a single, more prolonged semester with courses meeting for between 4 and 11 weeks, starting on a rolling basis. Some classes will begin in June and some in July, and there will be a mix of in-person and online classes. We are making some changes to course fees for the summer only that will accommodate offering one registration for all summer courses rather than 2 separate summer semesters in recent years. Some folks will experience a small increase, but most will pay the same or less than they did over 2 summer semesters in previous years. For our summer semester, we will not offer a bundling option for 2 or 3 classes, but 6-session flex passes will continue to be available. The course costs for summer 2024 will be 1 course for $55, 2 courses for $100, 3 for $125, and 4 or more for $150. Please reach out if you have any questions about these changes, and be sure to double check the start dates of classes as you register. Thank you to our instructors for your expertise and care in leading these classes. And thank you to all the volunteers on our curriculum committees who make this semester possible. The in-person open house is May 8th at 3 p.m. at Berkshire Community College. So if you're watching this video before that date, I encourage you to come, meet instructors and other members, and get a tour of campus. Registration opens May 2nd at 9 a.m., but course information is now live on our website if you want a head start on reading descriptions. Learn about our summer courses at berkshireolli.org/summer 2024. On many of the course description pages, there are videos from instructors to give an introduction to their classes, and these are also compiled in this video. Thank you so much. I hope you'll enjoy learning more about what's coming up this summer at OLLI at BCC. Be well.
Hello, I'm Richard Maturo, and in June, I'll be joined by 3 other instructors teaching a course called Whence the Muse, for writers on writing. Perhaps you've tried to write in the past or would like to write now, especially since maybe you're retired and have more time, but then the dreaded blank page syndrome sets in. What to write about? And what genre should I choose? And should I do it in the first person or the third? And what's going to make anyone want to read what I've written anyway? Well, the 4 instructors in this course are all published authors, and we have all asked ourselves those very questions. Over the course of 4 weeks, we'll be sharing our experiences with you, each of us taking up a different genre. I will speak the first week on the short story. The following week, Bob Reese, a nationally known writer, will speak on the novel. On the 3rd week, Kate Sontag, an award-winning poet, will speak on poetry. And in the final week, Stephen Somkin, whose plays have been produced in New York, will speak on the drama. Each of us will talk about how we became writers, why we chose the form we did, and read a sample of our work. We'll also leave plenty of time each week for discussion and Q&A. The class will be held in person on Monday afternoons, 3:30 to 5 at Berkshire Community College from June 10th through July 1st. If you have any interest in writing yourself, or if you just want an inside look at what writers go through when we face that terrifying blank sheet, we hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ellen Quabier. You may already know me from the various OLLI committees I'm on or the courses I facilitated, but this is the first time I'll be an instructor, and I'm glad to have Anastasia Stanmeyer the editor-in-chief of Berkshire Magazine, as my co-host. Ours will be a hybrid course on Monday mornings from 11:30 to 1, so those of you who prefer to participate in person can do so, and those who cannot attend at BCC can still see us on Zoom. We'll meet on 8 consecutive Mondays to ask local women leaders about their career choices, their challenges and successes, and what advice they have for young women today. We had a tough time limiting ourselves to just 8 professions, so we may have to continue this course in the fall. It's great that there are so many talented and successful women who are our neighbors. In week 1, Anastasia will moderate a panel consisting of one of our Massachusetts state representatives, a former Pittsfield mayor, and the first female mayor of North Adams. Anastasia will have a conversation with the CEO of Berkshire Health Systems in week 2. In week 3, I'll moderate a discussion among 3 successful women in finance. In week 4, 3 theater professionals will talk with Anastasia about their experiences in the industry. Then week 5 will give you a chance to hear from women who have taken on causes bigger than themselves, immigration, social justice, the LGBTQ community, and women and girls in the Berkshires and beyond. I will speak with local business owners in week 6. In week 7, I get to ask women in the skilled trades about their experiences. And finally, in week 8, we'll hear from a Berkshire County police chief, a police dispatcher, and a firefighter. We hope you'll agree it's quite a lineup and a course worth attending. See you this summer.
Hi, my name is Richard Easton. I'm offering a course for Berkshire Ollie coming up in June or July. I guess it is late July. Sorry. It's going to be called Enter the Dragon: China on the World Stage. I have taught this before in person down in Florida, which is where I live. But basically, it's I've looked at China for almost my entire life. I haven't studied it academically, but I was a foreign service officer for 32 years. I served in Singapore. Actually, I worked under a Chinese ambassador for 1 year at the APEC Secretariat. I will be looking at the history of China from the time back before it was even China, when it was named after an emperor named Qin. That's where we get the name China. I will look at it a bit throughout history. I'll be looking at it at its trade, Chinese export porcelain, for example, the Silk Route, all of those issues. And then I'll be bringing it up to modern day. I will go through some of the military engagements China has had before it became communist China, but also afterwards. I will look at economic issues. I will look at demographics, which is a huge issue because China is about to have the size of its population over the next 80 years or so. I'll be looking at the pollution issues. I'll be looking at the other constraints to economic growth in China, including droughts, like on the North China Plain, which is where a lot of the major cities are. They're having major drought issues. So I'll be looking at all of those kinds of issues, the challenge of competing with China on the economic plane, on trade. I will be looking at their accession to the World Trade Organization, but I will also be looking at a possible scenario. I did attend the Naval War College. I wrote some papers on China when I was there in 2010, 2011. I will have an assessment of what a war over Taiwan might look like. And I won't tell you what my view is as to who might win, but because that will bring you into the class perhaps. But I'll be looking at the constraints that China would have in an attack on China, and whether or not the United States enters or not, and what that scenario might look like. But in a nutshell, any war that China starts over Taiwan would be a disaster for both China and in many ways for the rest of the world, but no more so than China. So I'll be looking at all of those issues. I'll be looking at the issues of the fact that you had COVID coming out of China. You have many of these plagues that do come out of China. They actually come from, in many ways, from having livestock in your house, and you have these diseases that can jump from like pigs to people easily because we're so close anatomically. And then the fact that, of course, we have a dictator in charge now, a dictator for life, she who must be obeyed, and the challenges that China will face, and the challenges the United States will deal with China. The next say 20 years, I think will be the peak of difficulty in competition between the United States and China. But after that period of time, I think China will become weaker and weaker as its population declines, as its population ages pretty rapidly. And so it will be we are unfortunately living through the peak of Chinese power. They have already just passed, no longer are they the most populous country on the planet, as they have been for more than 2,000 years. India has just passed them. So China, in many ways, is already on the way down. Clearly, they still have 1.4 billion at the moment, so they will be powerful for a very long time. But China is having substantial challenges, and I will be looking at some of those, as well as how the U.S. might be able to play that situation and have it turn out to be generally okay for the United States. But as I say, I'm a retired diplomat. I worked on Chinese issues off and on over my career, and I look forward to having you in there. It will be a PowerPoint presentation, but open discussion in a lot of ways. So if you have questions at any time during my class, I'm more than happy to take them. I enjoy the exchange. To me, that's the whole point of an OLLI class, is to have the back and forth between people to talk about whatever issue is the subject of the class. So I look forward to seeing you in a couple of months in this class, and thank you.
Hi, my name is Ben Nickley, and I'll be teaching birdwatching basics this summer session. Our first meeting is going to be on June 11th. That's a Tuesday, and we will meet weekly every Tuesday following that initial session at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's kind of early for most of these courses, but the early bird gets the bird, I guess. I mean, the birds are active earlier in the morning, so it's going to be really great for us to get outside, not too long after sunrise, and really be out and appreciate these morning sessions together. So I have taught ornithology as a teaching assistant at various universities. I've led bird walks for different kinds of groups. I'm trained as a biologist and an ornithologist, and currently I am the executive director of Berkshire Bird Observatory, where we study birds, migratory birds, and catch them with our mist nets and band them. And we coordinate a kestrel nest box project and do informal education and things like that at our banding station, and also lead bird walks in Great Barrington. So I'm really excited to sort of expand our mission to the community and help do some more education for people that are maybe totally new to birding. So in this course, you can expect to learn how to look and learn how to listen and find new species, but also learn how to appreciate our common species and maybe watch them a little more closely and learn how to observe them and develop some questions and maybe find some answers to those questions through observation. So this is going to be a fun course, an informal course. If you're newer to birding, or maybe you're really into backyard birds, but you want to get out into different habitats and find some new species and learn how to identify them, this is going to be a really good course for you. We will definitely cover the basics of bird watching and be able to improve our field identification both by sight and by sound. So I hope that many of you can join. It's going to be a really fun course.
Good morning. I'm Katherine Kie, and it is my great pleasure to be the curator for the wonderful class that we're going to be having this summer on the Harlem Renaissance, which is part of our 1920s project. The 1920s project includes classes this summer on the history of the 1920s, led by Stacy Wallach, and also an outstanding science class looking at innovations in science in the 1920s. For the Harlem Renaissance class, we are going to have 3 major instructors. We're going to be kicked off by Frances Jones Sneed, an emeritus professor from Mass College of Liberal Arts. Frances will be looking at the history of the Harlem Renaissance based on David Levering Lewis's wonderful book, When Harlem Was in Vogue. She will be followed by David Mickenberg, who is an art historian and the retired director of a number of regional and college-based art museums around the country. He will be talking about the visual artists, and that includes James Vanderzee, a native of Lenox, Massachusetts, who was the most important photographer of the Harlem Renaissance. Once we've looked at those visual artists, David Langston will introduce us to the literary figures of the Harlem Renaissance. And David is also an emeritus professor from MCLA. They will be joined for the last class by a panel of experts on the Harlem Renaissance, and especially how the Harlem Renaissance resonates with issues of the place of the African American community within the broader American society. I hope you will join us for this very exciting class.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Gerald Petrozella, and I'll be teaching Are Robots Moral? The Ethics of Artificial Intelligence. I first taught this course for Ollie back in 2018, well before the public launch of ChatGPT triggered the current wave of generative AI. I've worked in academic technology since 2010, and my PhD is in philosophy with a focus in ethics. At the time, I was contributing to a set of industry guidelines for the ethical development of AI. Quite a lot has changed in the past 6 years, and we'll definitely take some time to explore these changes. But many important aspects of concern have remained constant, or come even more sharply into focus, as AI has moved from hypothetical idea to limited laboratory model to mainstream tech on all our smartphones, but also in the tools and applications that underpin many of our social systems. In our first class meeting, we'll take a high-level overview of a few of the key concepts relevant to thinking carefully through ethical implications of the AI tools that exist today and that will likely come next. Alignment, existential risk, explainability, algorithmic bias and fairness, transparency, accountability, misinformation, hallucinations, deepfakes, intellectual property, sentience, and more. And we'll explore just enough of the structure of AI models to frame our conversations. Then, in each of the next 5 class meetings together, we'll focus on ethical impacts that are relevant to specific domains, where AI has already begun shifting and challenging the innate assumptions we've always used as the foundations for our ethical thinking and decision making. Commerce, the arts, education, the military, healthcare. Each week, I'll provide a single reading I hope you'll all read in advance to prepare your questions and other thoughts for the discussion. I'll also share a short curated set of additional readings each week from a range of perspectives in case you want to dive deeper. And of course, we'll also take some opportunities to bring generative AI into our conversations. Generative AI is a cutting-edge field with radical potentials. To me, that makes it critically important for deep and careful ethical analysis to inform its development. I'm looking forward to our time together.
Thank you all for taking time to learn more about the workshop from first to final draft. Like many of you, I retired after a long career, after which I thought it would be fun to write stories. Stories about family, work, travel, and the people I had met along the way. I had taken writing classes for years, but I was rusty, so I wrote one very short story, and then I left it sitting on my laptop for weeks until one day, tired of looking at it, I decided to finish it and send it out for publication. When it was accepted, no one was more surprised than I was. Encouraged, I kept at it. I joined a writers group and took some classes. I found a narrative voice that felt right. I was having a great time taking experiences from my life and crafting stories I thought others might enjoy. Over time, I heard from many of my friends that they were trying to do the same thing. They just needed a review of the basics, a coach, some productive feedback from other writers, and a deadline. That was my inspiration for the workshop, from first to final draft. Here's how it works. After the first intro session, each participant picks one story to work on for the next 5 weeks. Maybe it's that one story you always wanted to tell, the one that makes your friends laugh, a story that enlightens, informs, or just simply entertains, a story that's been sitting on your laptop for months, or a brand new one. Each week, we'll focus on one aspect of good storytelling. What makes a great plot? What makes an engaging cast of characters? How do you create a narrator whose voice keeps your attention? What's the best point of view for your story? How do you incorporate description and dialogue and humor, if that's your writing voice? Each week, we'll read and discuss a short piece that demonstrates the best example of these elements, and you'll use what you learn to refine your own piece. And as you're writing and editing, I'll be your coach, sharing examples from masters of the craft and lessons from teachers who helped me along the way. By the end of our 6 weeks together with a little work, you'll have a finished piece that you can send out for publication. You can work on fiction, nonfiction, or creative nonfiction, those stories that are grounded in your real experience and shaped by you, the writer, to tell a story and make a point. Each writer will read their piece for critique and ideas from the other participants. If you're new to writers' workshops, you'll learn the protocols for effective critique, useful in any future classes or workshops. At our final session, we'll review sources and options for publication and ways to increase the odds that your piece would be accepted. Throughout the workshop, I'll be available to answer questions, and after our last session, I'll look forward to hearing about the success of your piece. While there's no required reading, there are a few books that I found useful and thought-provoking, and I'll send a list to you before the sessions begin. I hope to see you this summer, via Zoom, of course. Until then, happy writing.
Greetings to those interested in a grammar/writing course. I'm John Gould, Lanesboro summer resident for some 35 years, writer, former English teacher at several secondary schools, ending with 26 years at Phillips Academy, Andover, and post-retirement at Bennington College. There, for 5 years, I taught a half-term elective writing course called Through Syntax to Style. It's a version of that course that I'm planning to teach this summer. In 1968-69, at graduate school at Indiana University, I took a linguistics course partly based on the work of Noam Chomsky. There, I realized that a greater awareness of syntax offered me a greater range of options for expression. This awareness resulted in success in my own published writing, articles, nonfiction books, including a grammar textbook, several novels, and get ready, even 2 cookbooks with Doubleday, including The Great Little Hot Dog Cookbook way back in 1973. Yeah. I'm looking forward to working with writers who want to discover new ways of expressing themselves. It is good work. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Sher Nash, co-chair with Mary Jane Matina of the Ollie Science Committee. And it's my job today to convince you that our course on science and medicine in the 1920s this summer will be worth your while. I just want to remind you that in winter, Mary Jane Matina organized 2 courses, Advances in Medicine, as well as 21st Century Medicine, in March of this year. Both courses were superb with excellent speakers, and I hope you had a chance to hear the talks and learn from them. This spring, we also had 3 very good offerings. Back to the Future of Science Fiction from Linda Neville, Understanding Cancer in the 21st Century, organized by Christopher Otis, and Man Goes to the Moon, presented by Hank Gould. We hope that you are attending these this spring and enjoying them and learning from them. This summer, we are going to present some what we think would be blockbuster courses. The first one is a guided tour through the universe by Ken Bessich, who is an astronomer. The second one is Our Robots Moral? The Ethics of Artificial Intelligence by Gerald Petruzela, who is academic technology consultant at Williams College. And finally, this long course on science and medicine in the 1920s. This course will last for 11 weeks and will count as 2 courses. We have been very fortunate and assembled a remarkable group of speakers who will enlighten us on the momentous changes in science and medicine in the 1920s. To start off, we are delighted that Professor William Wooters will begin this course on June 12 with a presentation entitled Cracks in the Foundation of Classical Physics from 1900 to 1920, followed by The Quantum Breakthrough in the 1920s. This second class is the only one on a Thursday, June 20th at 3:30, as June 19th is a holiday. Professor Wooters is well known to OLLI audiences and has previous presentations to all of us on the speed of light and gravity. Professor Wooters is a fellow of the American Physical Society who has made major contributions in quantum mechanics and groundbreaking work in quantum information and communications theory. Following Dr. Wooters will be the first presentation in medicine, and it's entitled Antibiotics and Vaccines, given by Dr. John Schreiber, who is a retired pediatric infectious disease physician, still active at Connecticut Children's Hospital and the University of Connecticut. He has had a long career in research at Case Western Reserve University, focusing on bacterial meningitis in children. He has also had appointments as chair of pediatrics at the University of Minnesota and Tufts University School of Medicine. Last year, he gave OLLI audiences a well-received course on immunology. On July 3rd, Kevin Flaherty will present Astronomy in the 1920s. Professor Flaherty has studied the formation of planets using ground-based as well as space-based telescopes and has worked in support of the James Webb Space Telescope at the University of Arizona. He has been with Williams College as their observatory supervisor since 2018. On July 10, Jeff Leppo will present Cardiology in the 1920s, as well as the emergence of modern healthcare systems. Dr. Leppo retired from Berkshire Medical Center as Division Chief of Cardiology in 2021. He came to Berkshire Medical Center in 2004 after posts at the University of Massachusetts Memorial Healthcare in Worcester, where he was attending cardiologist as well as clinical director of nuclear medicine. On July 17th, Peter Bloom, who is very well known to OLLI audiences as past president of OLLI, as well as a moderator for science conversations. He will present relativity before and after 1920. It is remarkable that Peter, who has an undergraduate degree in physics, went on to Albany Law School and held a variety of positions in Vermont state government. On July 24, Dr. Dan Morrison, who is a practicing surgeon and chief of surgery at Mercy Medical Center in Springfield, will present Surgery in the 1920s. Dr. Morrison's surgical expertise is on complex gastrointestinal surgery as well as abdominal wall reconstruction. Following surgery will be a talk on pathology in the 1920s by Dr. Christopher Otis. This presentation will be on July 31st. Dr. Otis has just presented, and in fact is still presenting, a superb course on understanding cancer in the 21st century this spring to our OLLI audiences. He has been with Bay State Health in Springfield since 1986 and retired from active practice in 2021. During his time at Bay State, he had a profound influence on the practice of pathology and the training of house staff, and was actually actively involved in laboratory information systems. He is well known in the pathology world on a national and international level, having published widely on numerous important topics in pathology. We're coming down to the wire, and on August 27th, Dr. Ben Lipson, also well known to the OLLI community, will present with a colleague Psychiatry in 1920s. Dr. Lipson is professor of psychiatry emeritus at Tufts University School of Medicine, and he was chair of psychiatry at Bay State Health for 25 years. He has published widely on psychiatric topics, including geriatric psychiatry. The last two lectures will be my turn. Something to remember is that the decade between 1920 and 1930 saw great advances in medicine, and we have tried to present some of these. And the two closing talks that I will give will be on vitamins and minerals in the 20th century on August 14th, and the final talk on diabetes from insulin to Ozempic on August 21. I do hope that many of you will think that this course, which is packed with vital information, should be something that you would like to share and learn from and enjoy. So thank you for listening, and I hope to see you this summer. Goodbye.
Hi, I'm Don Bark, and I'll be leading a course this summer called Reading Poems About People. One of the poets whom we'll be reading is the great Irish poet W.B. Yeats. Yeats was in love with a woman called Maud Gonne, and he wrote this poem imagining years and years hence, after she had rejected his love, which she did, that she takes down the book with this poem in it and hears what he had to say about her and recognizes the depth of his love. So it's a portrait of her through his eyes. When you are old and gray and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your beauty with love false or true, but one man loved the pilgrim soul in you and loved the sorrows of your changing face. In this short poem, which I didn't say all of, Yeats leads us a couple of brisk walks around his subject, tells us a good deal about her, that she was beautiful, that she had moments of glad grace, which many men admired, but that his love was different, that his love saw into her pilgrim soul, her fierce idealism and determination, and also into her sadness, which he could see by virtue of his love. But a poem can do more for the poet and for us. We imagine that we know ourselves pretty well, but the truth is we are the dark side of our own moons. And when a poet undertakes a poem like this, he or she sifts the sands of his own nature, finds out what he values most about his subject, and by extension, what he values most about being human. In this poem, we can see that in Yeats. And we'll be reading a variety of poets. The 20th century American poet Marie Ponceau, Elizabeth Bishop, another American 20th century poet, Emily Dickinson, Lee Young Lee, a contemporary American poet, Wordsworth, Robert Frost, Thomas Hardy, and others. The real delight in these OLLI classes for me is that when I've finished saying what I want to say about a poem and the floor is open to discussion, inevitably I find out things about the poem that no matter how long I've known it and loved it, I hadn't seen before. It's as if a flowering bush that you thought had done blooming suddenly opened up one more blossom. And so we're all enriched. I hope you'll consider joining me in this course. And if you have questions or aspirations about the class, feel free to write to me at my email address, which you'll find at the OLLI site.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Bean, and I'm going to be very happily leading a class called New York Fashion Week 101. And I'm going to be covering all aspects of New York Fashion Week. When I say all aspects, I mean basically producing a show, casting models, doing fittings, finding a venue, creating a mailing list, working with designers, working with the press, and all aspects of having a successful fashion show during New York Fashion Week. I have created a business that covers public relations, predominantly in fashion. I started as a model when I was not a teenager, but when I was in college, and discovered that fashion was for me. And I opened my own business of selling outerwear, which basically I got involved with fashion designers. And one of them asked me if I would take a position during his fashion show. And that's how I got started. His name is Mark Montano. He's a wonderful fashion designer, but now he's a writer. He's very creative. He does do your own projects. And I discovered that this was a world I wanted to be in. And so what I did was I started working with fashion designers and producing shows. And that goes back to the late 1990s, probably 1999, early 2000s, where I worked with Bryant Park, which was a venue that New York Fashion Week had specifically. And then they moved on to Lincoln Center. I believe that was in 2007. And now it has boiled down to find your own place to show, which is not easy and has its own ups and downs. I'm not really sure why somebody would want to know about this, but I think there's a lot of curiosity about New York Fashion Week. And I know, having requests from a lot of people wanting to come to shows, people are always curious and want to know more about it. So I hope this helps you understand what it is we are going to do in this course. And I really look forward to meeting all of you. Hopefully you'll enjoy the process. I'm trying to get a designer to maybe not show up in person, but maybe we'll have a Zoom interview with him or her, and some other interesting players in the field of fashion. I look forward to seeing you in July. And my name is Bonnie Bean. LaPrez PR is the name of my company. Thank you all.
Hello, my name is Tom Merchant. I am in China right now. I've been teaching here since 2012 after having spent 20 years in the US in schools in Houston and Charlotte, North Carolina. This summer, I'll be offering a 4-week course on Chinese education in the BCC campus of the OLLI program. There are a number of topics that I'm very passionate about, and I hope that you will find interesting as well. In the course, we will discuss the overarching goals driving changes in education in China, fostering a skilled workforce, promoting social mobility, and enhancing global competitiveness. We'll discuss increased access to secondary and post-secondary education, both in China and abroad, and how this choice impacts students' academic, personal, and career development. We'll talk about why students seek to go abroad to study, and whether they go to Canada or the US or the UK, and what motivates those choices, even though there are other countries that offer English language programs. We'll talk about the disparities between rural and urban education, the importance of a household registration in China so that one's child can be educated here in the city. We'll talk about the prevalence of boarding schools, especially for rural students, and why some parents send children as young as 3 years old to boarding schools. What motivates that? We'll discuss the significance of overseas educational opportunities for Chinese students, including enrollment in international and internationalized bilingual schools, both in China and in the US. We'll talk about China's approach to curricular design, national testing systems, high-stakes testing, and entrance into universities in China, including the top tier of universities, which they call 985. We'll discuss the impact of Chinese student enrollment in US boarding schools, the dynamics and impact of cross-cultural exchange, as well as educational integration. We'll discuss how boarding schools have been impacted significantly by the influx of Chinese students, particularly in New England. Finally, we'll discuss the process to gain admission to universities in the West, including the procurement of reference letters and transcripts, especially for post-secondary students navigating higher education pathways. It's something I'm quite clearly passionate about, and I hope you'll join me this summer. It's going to be very enlightening.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Martin Weinstein. I have been studying and living and writing and teaching about Latin America for over 50 years. This is my second decade of offering courses for OLLI, usually on Latin America, various aspects, US policy, Pope Francis when he was elected, etc., etc. Anyway, as you could see from the literature, the course that I'm offering this summer semester is entitled Entangled Neighbors, Latin America and the United States in 2024. This is an amazing year for elections throughout the world. If we go back a few months into late 2023 and look at 2024, Putin, Xi, if you want to call those elections, and now in Latin America, starting late in 2023 with Argentina and continuing this year with elections in Venezuela, Mexico, Uruguay, and I believe El Salvador, and of course, the United States. So I'm thinking about what I would do this time around with OLLI. I have decided that looking at these elections and their influence or potential influence on US policy and the election in the United States itself is really worth considering. So what we're going to be doing in this course is looking at the elections I just mentioned in terms of their impact on US policy in areas which I would prefer to call intermestic, which is a term a friend, a colleague of mine coined, which means that there's no such real thing as strictly domestic issues and strictly international issues. And we look at the relationship between the United States and Latin America. The issues that quickly come to mind are immigration, drugs, trade, security, and the climate. And all of those issues, by definition, immediately have both domestic and international implications in the United States and for the United States. So in that regard, that's what we're going to be focusing on in terms of understanding the processes in these countries and why the elections turned out there the way they did, and what the reaction and what the positives and negatives might be for the United States and for its own election. In order to do that completely, I will also dedicate one of the lectures, or at least most of one of the lectures, to the Latino population in the United States, which is now the largest single minority population and will have a potentially enormous effect on our election, given the concentration of the Latino population in states like Nevada and Arizona, which will probably be among the 5 states that will hold the key to the U.S. election. The American philosopher Eric Hoffer had one of my favorite lines about history. He said, "History is a game played by the best and the worst over the heads of those in the middle." And I think he was right, and I think that's what we're going to see. Most of you are Berkshirites, so I want to add one of my favorite quotes from Nietzsche, who is known for a lot of quotes that most people don't like, but Nietzsche actually once said, "Without music, life would be a mistake." And for those of us in the Berkshires, I think that we would certainly agree with that statement. In any event, I hope to see you in mid-June on our first Zoom. And I would hope that you would begin to put the elections and Latin American-U.S. relations on your radar screen in terms of the reading you do or the news that you follow, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Elaine Son, and I will be teaching international folk dancing this summer at Simon's Rock in Great Barrington. I know that my course presentation is no doubt sandwiched in among mostly intellectual courses because that is Ollie's focus. But as we all know from talking to medical experts, exercise is another way we can all enjoy a longer and fuller life. So here's your chance. Use your brain and your body, because in this folk dance class, we do it all. We move around the gym, we burn calories, we use our brains to remember the steps and the patterns. We learn about the musical culture of different countries. We hear the rhythms and the instruments that might be new to us, and all of that makes for a really fun experience. In July 2021, we posed for this photo outside the Mount after our first session. We had a large group that summer. You might recognize some people in there. And that's Steve Tobin, who was the organizer that summer. Here's a typical playlist from one of our classes. Notice number 5, Fado, Portugal, new. So at this session, we learned the dance called Fado, probably one of the only Portuguese folk dances we will do this summer. Here is a group that I taught doing a little bit of the dance.
Foi alegre, foi ginga, por ser fado é canção, por ser futuro é passado, mal querido ou bem amado. O fado, mal querido ou bem amado. O fado.
Last summer, we learned the Sicilian Tarantella. Here is a group doing it at BCC where we had our class last summer. And the final screen I wanted to share with you is a playlist from one of the final sessions one summer. As you can see, there are 20 dances on this list, and they are from many, many different countries. This is a typical playlist for by the end of the summer. We learned dances from Croatia, Romania, Hungary, Israel, Russia, Greece, Bulgaria, and a host of other countries. In addition, we will probably do some American line dances. So if you have any special requests, whether they're American line dances or dances you once learned somewhere and you'd like to do them, please make sure you give me their name. Now, what about prerequisites for this class? Comfortable shoes and clothing for a gym floor, an air-conditioned gym, no less. No partners are necessary in this class. But if you have a friend who is not active enough, be persuasive, bring them along. And in case you're wondering about the level, this class will work fine for both first-time folk dancers and experienced dancers. Currently, I teach at several places in Brooklyn during the year, but since my husband and I spend our summers in the Berkshires, it's fun to dance with Ollie people in July and August, which I have done for the past 3 summers. So join us Thursday mornings, 9:30, Simon's Rock Athletic Center in Great Barrington. Start your Thursdays off with a smile and a circle dance. I hope you'll be dancing with us this summer. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Peter Padal, and I'm going to be teaching a course for Holly this summer devoted to Fernando Arrabal, the most performed living playwright in existence. Arrabal is a fascinating character. At 91, he's still active, constantly producing new works. He's best known as a playwright, but he is also an essayist, a novelist, a poet, an artist, a chess authority, a true Renaissance man, extremely prolific. I had the opportunity of getting to know him well personally. He slept in my home. I visited him in his apartment in Paris. He's quite a controversial figure. He can be shocking. He can give bizarre interviews. But he draws inspiration from his particularly traumatic and uniquely horrifying in some ways biography, in that the Spanish Civil War broke out when he was 4. And he was born in 1932 and divided his family. His mother was a pro-Franco right-winger. His father was jailed for refusing to take, who he was in the military, for refusing to take part in the attempted coup or uprising against the elected government. All of that I will go into in great detail in the course, but it certainly provided lots of material for Arrabal to use in his essays and his plays and his novels. The course itself will consist of 4 meetings. The first meeting, I will introduce you to Arrabal, his life, everything about him. I have a huge coffee table sized book about him filled with colored photos of his artwork and various other things that I can share. And I will ask the members of the class to read his very first play called Picnic on the Battlefield, to give an idea of what he's like. The title itself says a lot. It's his most performed play. He wrote it He conceived of it when he was only 10 and wrote it at 14. It was published when he was still only 18. Second class, we'll look at several of his short early works that drew for their inspiration directly from his own life, his own autobiography. Arrabal came to my university, and we had an Arrabal day at the university. We showed the film I'm going to mention later. We performed 2 of his plays, both of which I will have you all read. And after the performance, I was able to film an interview with him. And I will play portions of that interview so you can get to know him and meet him in person via the video. Our third meeting, we will watch his most famous, important, shocking, controversial film called Viva la Muerte, Long Live Death. That expression became the battle cry for the Franco forces during the Spanish Civil War. So again, that war and his own life and the impact of the war on his life are instrumental to the film itself. The fourth and final class, we will be discussing the film Viva la Muerte. And after that, we will spend the rest of the class discussing and analyzing his most famous, most important play, which is called The Architect and the Emperor of Assyria. That play has been produced many times, but there is a particularly famous, important production done at La Mama Theater in New York City that received rave reviews from the head critic, drama critic of the New York Times. A memorable work to be treasured. So that should give you an idea of what you can expect if you take the class devoted to this fascinating, controversial, shocking, interesting character. I hope some of you will choose to join me this summer, and I look forward to sharing my knowledge. I have already written 2 books about him, about Fernando Arrabal. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Katherine Kie, and I am here with my partner John, and we are going to be leading the Hiking Berkshire Cobbles class.
Yep, and I'm John Kidd, Kate's partner in all these hikes and adventures that we like taking and have been taking for the last 10 years in the Berkshires.
And the Berkshire Cobbles hiking class is going to cover 6 cobbles from south to north, beginning with Bartholomew's Cobble in Sheffield and going north to Pine Cobble in Williamstown.
Now you may wonder what are they talking about when they say cobbles? Well, cobbles are unique rock formations that were carved into the hillsides and the mountains along the Berkshires by the glaciers some 10 to 14,000 years ago, and they make for great walks, strenuous uphill climbing, and truly great adventures. You'll find that they can be strenuous and they will vary in length. So you have to come prepared for being a little venturesome.
Okay, and in order to have a good experience on the hike, we strongly recommend that you use hiking poles. If you don't have hiking poles of your own, we can provide poles through Berkshire Natural Resources Council. It's also very important because these are rocky trails, climbing up to the ridgeline, and so good hiking shoes are very, very important for these particular hikes.
And there are lots of rewards that come with the hiking. I mean, the destinations will provide you with great views and unique sense of geological formations, but along the way, great conversations. You'll be meeting good people, good Ollie folk, and perhaps you'll expand your social network for future hikes that you might be taking together.
We look forward to having you join us on the trail.
Hi, I'm Maggie Roberts Barkin, and I'm offering a class this summer called Theater Workshop. If you like to collaborate with other people, what I think is fun is to make stage pictures, tableaus. So we begin each class with warm-up, with some challenges to remind ourselves of the elements of stage pictures, which are the areas of the stage, the levels you can work at, and your body's position in space, and as it relates to other bodies in space. We'll look at a different text each week. It could be Aesop in a fable, it could be a poem or a letter to the editor. It could be a piece of a play or a story. The idea is to take that text and discuss it, find the arc of the story, find those moments where characters change, where things propel the plot. And then your challenge is in a group of 4, randomly each week, chosen for you. We will, and here I could
just keep going.
fix it, okay. In groups of 4, you'll decide how do you want to depict those moments in the story. All 4 people need to be in the tableau in some way, and it becomes a creative and fun way to think about theater, and we look at each other's work and discuss it, and if there's time, we can add dialogue. So I hope you'll come. We're having 6 classes, and we'll be in a rehearsal space at Simon's Rock, which is very lucky, and with some good materials to use. I hope to see you there.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Noelle Staples Freeman.
My name is Lacolian Freeman.
I will be teaching African rooted dance. And in the African rooted dance class, we will be studying dances from the African diaspora. This class, it is movements that are easy for everyone to follow and have fun with, but also you will be learning about the traditional music and how it works with the dance. So that is a class that I'll be offering, African Rooted Dance class, and it is open to all levels and abilities.
And myself, Lacolian Freeman, I will be teaching practical self-defense. This class is designed for older active adults, and it teaches us awareness, situational awareness. It's the art that I've studied, Wing Chun, Kempo, and boxing for the last 40 years or so. And it's taking this art and breaking it down to its simplest form to make it a lot easier for us to understand. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Hope to see you there soon.
So we look forward to seeing you in our classes. Thank you.